Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. I have been reading The Gallery by John Horne Burns. To tell the truth, I don't really like the book very much, but I have found it consistently interesting enough to persist. So I am at about 250 pages in, and I thought I would read a selection. It is a book of short stories. Actually, it is more a book of reminiscences that have been just very lightly tailored to the short story format. So I will read one that I did not really expect to come across, written by a man in 1947. His words seem like one might easily hear them or overhear them today in the cafe. So this is the 7th Promenade, Naples. 7th Promenade, Naples. I remember that my heart finally broke in Naples, not over a girl or a thing, but over an idea. When I was little, they'd told me I should be proud to be an American, and I suppose I was, though I saw no reason I should applaud every time I saw the flag in a newsreel. But I did believe that the American way of life was an idea wholly in itself, an idea of freedom bestowed by intelligent citizens on one another. Yet after a little while in Naples, I found out that America was a country just like any other, except that she had more material wealth and more advanced plumbing. And I found that outside of the propaganda writers who were making a handsome living from the deal, Americans were very poor spiritually. Their ideals were something to make dollars on. They had bankrupt souls. Perhaps this is true of most of the people of the 20th century. Therefore, my heart broke. I remember that this conceit came home to me in crudest black and white. In Naples of 1944, we Americans had everything. The Italians, having lost their war, had nothing. And what was this war really about? I decided that it was because most of the people of the world didn't have the cigarettes, the gasoline, and the food that we Americans had. I remember my mother's teaching me out of her wisdom that the possession of things implies a responsibility for their use. They shouldn't be wasted. That having things should never dominate my living. When this happens, things become more important than people. Comfort then becomes the be and end all of human life. And when other people threaten your material comfort, you have no recourse but to fight them. It makes no difference who attacks whom first. The result is the same, a killing and a chaos that the world of 1944 wasn't big enough to stand. Our propaganda did everything but tell us, Americans, the truth, that we had most of the riches of the modern world, but very little of its soul. We were nice enough guys in our own country, most of us. But when we got overseas, we couldn't resist the temptation to turn a dollar or two at the expense of people who were already down. I can speak only of Italy, for I didn't see France or Germany. But with our Hollywood ethics and our radio network reasoning, we didn't take the trouble to think out the fact that the war was supposed to be against fascism, not against every man, woman, and child in Italy. But then a modern war is total. Armies on the battlefield are simply a remnant from the old kind of war. In the 1944 war, everyone's hand ended by being against everyone else's. Civilization was already dead, but nobody bothered to admit this to himself. I remember the crimes we committed against the Italians as I watched them in Naples. In the broadest sense, we promised the Italians security and democracy if they came over to our side. All we actually did was to knock the hell out of their system and give them nothing to put in its place. And one of the most tragic spectacles in all history was the Italians' faith in us for a little while until we disabused them of it. It seemed to me like the swindle of all humanity, and I wondered if perhaps we weren't all lost together. Echoes certain thoughts I have had about life in this age and about my own country, indeed. And I am surprised that they were written in 1947 in a book which became a bestseller. As I say, I don't really like the book all that much. John Horne Burns is far from a flawless human being and far from a flawless narrator, but at least for me, I'm finding it worth persisting in. Thank you for stopping by my channel.